So I'm sure you've heard of the Tinder Swindler. Men who usually swindle women look like this or like this. But when it comes to India, our Shadi.com swindler looks like this. Today, let me tell you the story of a man whose trail of destruction has been felt from Mumbai to Melbourne. And did I mention that the same swindler had released a movie about oversharing on the internet 5 years ago? So let's start with this brand new developing story about the victims of Dr. Abhishek Shukla. And if you stay till the end, you can learn what's the recourse in the law if something like this has happened to you. Hi, welcome to Collectively Vigilant. I'm Dr. D. Now, please consider subscribing to this channel if you're the kind of person who likes to learn the legal and criminological aspects of any crime. And I'm so confident I can explain this to you because not only am I a professor, I'm also a lawyer. And we have 30 or more episodes actually available on Spotify and Apple, and I'll link this particular one in the description box below. Now, a fair warning that the podcast is not identical to what I'm saying on the YouTube video because I host the podcast with the psychologist Sam, and she is clearly not in this video. Anyway, with that being said, let's start with the story. In 2024, a 40-year-old woman was looking for a fresh start in life after her divorce, and like most ordinary Indians, she made a profile on Shadi.com, which is India's largest matrimonial website. She matched and started conversing with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Rohit Oberoi. And as they grew closer, Dr. Rohit Oberoi would frequently come and meet this woman from different parts of the world. He was quite the globetrotter. As this woman grew closer to Dr. Oberoi, she tells him one day that she is finally getting her alimony settlement. And the divorce settlement was close to 5 crore rupees, or what can be around 900,000 Australian dollars. The same woman had also shared with Dr. Oberoi that she was planning to start her own business related to mindfulness and spirituality, not for adults. So many of those programs are already available. She wanted to do something completely new and start this for school children. And she shared this earnest desire of hers about expanding this initiative to schools all over the world internationally. So, in the course of their relationship, which lasted a few months, Dr. Rohit Oberoi, being the helpful gentleman that he was, offered to help this woman with her funding and her overseas contracts. And then, of course, he made sure that she transfers all the money that she has gotten from her alimony settlement onto a few bank accounts in India and also in Singapore because he convinced her that this would help her grow her business. And that's when he also introduces her not only to him but also to two other people, a woman by the name of Yvonne Handayani and another man by the name of Vincent Kuan. And these people, well, supposedly lived in Singapore. And this woman was so much in love with Dr. Rohit Oberoi that she transferred about the equivalent of 3.6 crore rupees into the bank accounts of Yuan and Vincent. After these people had received the funds, Dr. Rohit Oberoi suddenly leaves for Australia, and then a few days later he tells our victim that he's been diagnosed with mouth cancer. Communication after that sort of dwindles between these two. She's extremely worried. This man was basically the love of her life, and eventually, Dr. Rohit Oberoi stops conversing with her altogether. In September of 2024, allegedly, this victim suddenly gets an email out of nowhere from a person that she already knew, a person by the name of Vincent Kuan, and he informs her that unfortunately, Dr. Rohit Oberoi is dead. Now, growing suspicious of this whole thing, this woman confides in a friend. And this friend, my dear, is a true crime friend because the true crime friend tells her immediately that this sounds extremely suspicious and that she must go and inform the police. So, the victim in the story runs to the police station and informs them in November of 2024. And that's when an investigation began. Once the police started investigating, they realized that there is no person called Dr. Rohit Oberoi. It was a fake name adopted by a man by the name of Dr. Abhishek Shukla, who was indeed an Australian citizen. Dr. Abhishek Shukla was actually born and brought up in Lucknow, which is in the northern part of India, and eventually studied and moved to Australia. Most recently, he had lived in Perth and he had also lived in Darwin. And he was not just any ordinary person, he had actually even received a PhD in Australia and was now a naturalized citizen. He had actually spent a lot of his time in Singapore, in India, and also in Australia. So, some of the things that this man was telling us, our victim, was actually correct. According to the publicly available information that I could glean from the universities where he had studied, it did say that he had indeed acquired a PhD, and he was currently working as a professor at Charles Darwin University in Darwin. He holds a doctorate in international business and strategic management from the University of Melbourne. At Charles Darwin University, he was actually quite active. He coordinated the undergraduate program, he chaired several research committees, and taught marketing and management courses. He also published his academic works in international journals, and some of his works can be found in these kind of journals where the ones that I looked at were basically talking about the internationalization of small businesses. Beyond academia, Dr. Abhishek Shukla actually had an eclectic sort of personality. He was not just your run of the mill professor, he was also an inventor, a filmmaker, and an entrepreneur. He had appeared in a media story about how to disrupt technologies and develop patterns and QR codes of different platforms. And he even made a movie. The movie that he made is called Social Media Murder Story, which explores how social media users can expose themselves to danger by mingling with strangers who might manipulate them and harm them. The irony writes itself here.
You want us to separate? Are you fucking serious?
There's so much here that you don't understand.
What don't I understand? Make me
But
understand.
we don't have time for this.
What don't I understand?
Is anyone there? Anybody?
You both need to communicate.
Is doing nothing really an option for you?
Have you considered living separately for a while?
Wake up and smell the coffee.
So, when he was interviewed about his movie, he said, quote, "So often what we are doing when we use social media is exposing ourselves to absolute strangers. We only know them by who they say they are, but they can be an extraordinary influence in our lives," unquote. Now, this was from his 2018 interview. And then he goes on to say, again in the same interview, he says, quote, "My film exposes the dark side of this influence. There are real dangers in sharing too much information online with strangers." Well, no truer words have ever been said. But the conning doesn't just stop with one woman. It extends to 3,000 women. So apparently Abhishek Shukla was conning hundreds of thousands of women on matrimonial websites like shadi.com. Technical analysis of his digital activity showed that he had messaged and interacted with, at some level or the other, 3,194 women using the fake identity of Dr. Rohit Oberoi. So the scope of this fraud can be much larger, and an investigation is actually underway as you and I speak right now. So, as I told you, the woman meets this man in 2024. They go around, they actually live in different parts of India together over some period of time. Then she hands over some money to him in before November of 2024. And then by the time she realizes she's been conned, it's basically November of 2024. And after that, the investigation began. and he was finally nabbed in June of 2025 when he was making his way from Singapore back to India. So he was actually arrested. And on the day he was arrested, interestingly enough, the day after that, he was supposed to meet yet another woman who he had been dating and had met this woman through shadi.com. Not only had he met this woman, he had actually met her entire family, and the entire family was completely in awe of Dr. Rohit Oberoi, because Dr. Rohit Oberoi said that he is apparently an orphan and he was brought up by his grandmother, and then she passed away, and it was basically he wove a rags to riches story where he came out as the hero. Well, you will not be surprised to know, as viewers of true crime, you can tell where this is going. He, of course, had a family. His father is, in fact, a practicing lawyer in Uttar Pradesh, and he comes from quite an established family. He has a wife and a child. And one of the newspaper clippings also said that his child is 12 years old. So he was definitely quite the liar. Now, some people have speculated online that his wife might be in on it. I'm not sure. It's just a speculation. Well, let's hope that she's not. This is where the narrative of what's happened so far ends. However, I should tell you that the Pune Cyber Police is actually urging everyone to get in touch with them if anyone's actually been in contact in any way in the last 2 to 3 years with Dr. Abhishek Shukla, who calls himself Dr. Rohit Oberoi. So, the number that they want you to call at and the email that they've supplied, I'm going to link that in the description box below. So, do go check that out. Now, I thought that this would be a really good episode to figure out what one should do if one's been conned on the internet. What are the laws that apply in India? So, the Information Technology Act of the year 2000, under Section 66D, says that cheating by impersonating yourself as another person on computers or through a phone, this is the section that deals with cyber fraud and impersonation. And it does say that if a person is caught doing that, then they can be charged with this crime, because of which the person might actually land up in jail for 3 years, or they might land up in jail and plus might have to pay a fine of about 1 lakh rupees. So while we are at it, why don't we just quickly discuss what the Indian Penal Code says about cyber crimes. So under Section 420 of the Indian Penal Code, it says cheating and dishonesty, including delivery of property, often used through during online frauds. Of course, that's the only reason people would defraud you. They want money out of you, or they want something out of you. So if somebody does that, that comes under Section 420 of the Indian Penal Code. Similarly, Section 463 to Section 471 deals with forgery and fraudulent documents, which of course Dr. Rohit Oberoi / Dr. Abhishek Shukla had done with our victim, who's from Pune. She's originally from Delhi, but she lived in Pune. So these are the kind of things that that one finds in Indian law when it comes to recourse for people who have been conned online. So, this might just bring us to the end of this episode, but actually, on the podcast, we went into the psychological profile of someone who would do such a crime. What kind of people do this? Why do they do this? So on and so forth. As I already told you at the beginning of the episode, well, I can't do that because I'm just a professor and a lawyer, but my co host Sam is actually a psychologist. So, if you click in the link on the description box below, you will find what Sam has to say about maniacs like this who con people out of their money and their peace of mind. Anyway, so usually my episodes are really long. This one is quite short, and I thought I'll give you a respite by giving you a mini episode. So I'm going to stop here for today, and until I see you again, stay collectively vigilant.